Our final speaker for this particular segment is going to be Sean Williams with Carlson Studio Architecture. He's going to share results of a meaningful process to architecture and place. Sean is an accomplished architect with many years of progressive design experience, comprehensive expertise in LEED, living building challenge, consulting, biomimicry, principles in design, architectural design, various computer technologies for the architectural profession. Let's hear it for Sean Williams. Your timer is right ahead of you there, sir.
Very good, thank you. This might look like I coordinated with Jennifer here, but I think it's more a sign of the genius that's in the ethos about where we need to go with sustainability. We've talked about it for, I don't know, 20, 30 years now. So you'll see some similar themes in here, but I don't want to talk about the end process or the end product because as an architect, we don't do the end product. Let me see, we started in the middle here. There you go, you had a brief. So when Mary and Sarah asked me about, we want you to provide results, well, we started to think, well, the results of a building are not really the architect's results, they're the client's results, and it's a result of the client saying, how do I make this, or how can we do better at that? Those words and questions free us up to be able to provide a more appropriate process, which I'd like to talk about here today and lead you from where I started and kind of where we're going now. So as John said, it is a process in architecture and place. You can't have architecture without place. You can have place without architecture, but there's symbiotic here. Typically we start out with sketches and kind of these fun things that get you guys excited about, hey, you guys can draw, you're artistic, this works. But we're really talking about place and how to organize that place, and where place comes from and how it relates to the human experience, because we don't design, or we shouldn't design, for cars or airplanes or other non-human things. We occupy the buildings, we occupy the place in front of the buildings and around the buildings. It should be about us. Okay. But as we move forward, we're also talking about us in a responsible way, right? Us and nature. As much as we've tried to segregate ourselves from nature and protect ourselves from the various things that are out there, I think we realize that we're still integral with nature and we need to be a part of that. And one of the buzzwords that we keep hearing and seeing is this notion of biophilia. Now, biophilia is a word brought about by E.O. Wilson, and he talks about it as the love of nature, right? So how do we bring nature into the buildings? This is not really new. If you look at Frank Lloyd Wright and his ideas about bringing the nature inside from the outside in, we're just trying to figure out how to scientifically do it now as they've gotten more and more. So just to kind of talk about process, why architects deal with process. Typically it's a linear thing. A client comes in, I have a problem, we say, what's your problem? They say, I want to solve this. We say, yes, we can solve that. Here are the following rules that we need to apply by. In this process, we talk about a sustainable process of manufacturing, bring it out to a warehouse, bring it down to distribution, to come to the consumer, take that out to recycling. Some of it goes back to the consumer, some of it goes to waste, some of it we want to upcycle. The process that we're talking about doing right now with biophilia and LEED is not necessarily the process, it's a review of that process. Although if you don't know about LEED or your client's interest in LEED, you can't have that conversation with the process. Process has to lead to some kind of result. Results obviously are measurable, and that's what LEED, WELL, Living Building, Green Globes, this is what they do. They help measure our results. So when you speak to an architect and you say, hey, I want a LEED building, we're going to ask you, well, what kind of LEED building? What kind of results is really what we're asking you. What are the results that you need to have? Do you want to be innovative and be the first living botanical garden, net positive? Do you want to be the first net positive residential space? Once we know this, we can build that into the process, and that's something that we take personal. In fact, we as the architects have started asking this. What is your result? How do you want that result to be measured? Where can we put that result in a useful way? My career started back with a three-letter firm that got me interested in this prior to 2005. We were working with some amazing clients that wanted to do really interesting things and push the envelope. But we realized as a firm around 2005 too, they were celebrating 50 years, and they said that we, at that time, the 1,000 or so architects that we were, had built enough space to cover the state of Rhode Island for 4 stories all the way across. And we said for 1,000 architects to have that kind of responsibility, we should have a more meaningful process that helps develop architecture in a way that is not just consuming resources and taking them up, but also helping provide a responsibility to the nature and the environment that's allowing us to be there. So the project there was USF, Interdisciplinary Science Building. Client came to us and said, hey, we just need some kind of LEED thing. We don't really know what it is. We haven't done LEED before. We said, okay, well, we'll do it as LEED certified just to kind of get you guys going. And then they stepped it up while we were doing the process, said, no, not certified. We want to do silver. I said, okay. So we started looking at it, and we found out through our process that silver actually for us meant gold. And we presented this to them at the end saying, hey, we don't have to add any more money into this project. We're actually LEED gold. So, you know, the results for them were just, we need to be LEED, and we said we need to be LEED better. KAUST, the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, I think was sort of a pinnacle project there for sustainability in that it was 10 million square meters or 100 million square feet of research facility done over in Saudi Arabia that was going to focus on sustainable technologies. And it was a huge responsibility because there was absolutely no infrastructure there, and it was a quest that the client had asked us to do. By the way, we had to do 10 million square meters in 18 months. And by 18 months, I mean design and build this in 18 months, which is a huge feat. And you had to think quick, and you can't really invent stuff along the way. You have to have a process to be able to do that. Not all of these are LEED certified. Now, the 2 that I showed you, LEED Gold, LEED Platinum, this is a project that we'd worked on. We talked with the client. Their result was we just need to increase our student population. And we said, well, we want to increase the student population, but we want to increase student health. And we were challenging them to increase the student health. It was a gymnasium that couldn't really fit on an existing campus. And we had found ways to essentially bring more daylight in, balance an existing iconic structure that was already there, but also educate students about what daylight meant for them in health, what exercise was, how old buildings could get reused into new buildings, and you could still have some kind of iconic ideas. Sun and Fun, which most of you are familiar around here, Carlson Studio Architecture had done. Another thing where they're looking at natural resources. Is that what not working? Oh, okay. Is that better? I feel like I'm talking back to myself now. You know, again, how do you create an active lifestyle? How do you create an active temporary lifestyle as these people come in and start to come in, seasonally? The Wellness Center, which was originally designed for cancer wellness facility, now as I understand is a charter school. So talking about resilience in architecture that not only comes out as a LEED Platinum project, but as a LEED Platinum project that can be used in other ways. Initially, the first client said we want it to be a healthy place to help people get better and not think about their illness. And now we're talking, we're realizing that students can come to the same place and have a different kind of wellness in this. The Autobahn, which was recently completed here, is net zero, net positive energy. We'll see where that ends up being. Again, a part of a process that client came to us and said, we want to look at something new. We want to advance this. We're interested in sustainability. How do we make it better? How do we make it off the grid? It really starts with vision. And it starts with vision not only from the architect, but also from the client. The client has to allow us to have permission to do this process, but we have to have that process in place to embrace that vision, to accept that. So we've taken it upon ourselves to kind of take it a step further and say, okay, well, LEED is excellent. It's an excellent marker. Living Building Challenge is phenomenal. We talk about restorative design, buildings that actually start to restore the built environment and the place that we're living in and creating healthier spaces. But there's another level out there that's around us every day. Let me talk first about the living building that we designed and got through permitting, but ultimately was not built for the St. Petersburg College up in Seminole. It was an interesting process where the client came to us and said, hey, we don't know anything about any of this sustainability stuff. We're curious about being challenged. We want to be evocative, and we really want to stretch it. As we started going through the process, we realized that we were on the innovative side. It ended up costing $800 a square foot. We didn't have all the grants in place. We got several donations, but the process was the interesting part. We started looking at the various classifications for WELL and LEED, and they said, well, that's good, but what's the future? What's the innovative future of sustainability? How do we keep evolving? And I said, well, I'm a student of biomimicry. I think this would be a great opportunity to start talking to you all about what's around your environment and how to create the, wow, that did go quick. So biomimicry, because I have 30 seconds, starts out by looking at, we looked at a pine cone, because it was in a pine flat, and we wanted to develop a significant idea behind that. So we evaluated this to see where we could transition the space more like, and I'm not going to say exactly like a pine cone, but the processes that it operated in with it. The end result turned out a collaboration between us and the mechanical engineers to change some of the ideas we thought as architects about daylighting, microclimates, and the space. We ended up looking at lighting, the site, and I want to mention that we moved on to a tiny house where we could evolve those ideas with Parvis House. A business partner and I got together and started developing, hey, how do we create more economical spaces for people that are net positive space that also follow the Living Building Challenge. There's that space, biomimicry. I will be around after this to kind of talk through a lot of these ideas. But last, if I got 30 seconds, I just want to say that we just launched the Center for Biomimetic Architectural Research, which we're collaborating with St. Petersburg College on and trying to develop the space. This is us constructing those containers right now that we found. It's a 10 by 40 foot micro lab space where we're going to not only envision what the clients want, but we're going to start testing these ideas and bringing them to the clients, so that way we're also, understanding what the needs are and where we can go with it. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.